Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm reading from a book. I took some time to write my thoughts down so I can get this all to flow pretty good for the video. This video is going to be a little different. First off, in current events, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting, I just want to say I'm a Christian. I have been a Christian for 40 years. It was on a Sunday evening church service in 1985 in the Bible Baptist Church of Eureka, Kansas, with the late Reverend Lloyd Stewart, when I walked forward and asked the Lord into my heart and to forgive me of my sins. My little brother, who was 4 years younger, followed me up and did the same. Him and I was the only two that evening who walked forward in a gathering of about, 30 people. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. And I believe in my country. I believe in all the amendments of our Constitution and believe it should be left alone. I'm red, white, and blue through and through. And I have something to tell you all about that's been going on. But first, I need to help you understand my background on how I grew up. You see, my dad served in Vietnam in 1967. He was never injured physically, but he was injured mentally. He saw every evil thing Vietnam had to offer. And I'm going to quickly tell you a little bit of his experiences. He was a buck sergeant of a 10-man search and destroy squad. While that might sound mean and bad, they did try to do good things. When they walked through the mountain yard villages, they always tried to help the sick people with medicine. Dad always carried a bunch of C4 in his backpack. He always said if a bullet would have ever hit that backpack, he would have been vaporized. He would use a little bit of that C4 to help the village people catch fish. He would push a blasting cap into a small chunk of it with a wire and toss it into a river or a pond and detonate it. All kinds of fish would float to the surface dead. He said one time a huge fish floated up and he was like, they won't do anything with it because it was too big to carry. He was wrong. Those little village kids got a hold of that fish, and the last thing he saw was the tail of that big fish going off through the jungle. That was some of the good things. They tried to help. There were two enemy forces in Vietnam, the North Vietnamese regulars and the Viet Cong. The North Vietnamese regulars were a regular trained army that wore uniforms, and they fought like they were trained and like men, I believe. The Viet Cong, on the other hand, they were nasty, evil people. So let me explain. Those village people, Dad said he had walked into several villages where the Viet Cong had just been there. Everyone in the village had been killed. If they were suspected of being United States sympathizers, they'd kill them all. And here's the evil part. All the pregnant women, well, they took their knives and they cut them from the crotch up to their breasts and let the babies fall out on the ground. My dad always told the guys in his squad he'd never have them do anything he wouldn't do. And this brings me to the next evil thing he witnessed in Vietnam. Dad's commanding officers came to him with a special assignment. There were 5 special forces guys that were missing. Dad was given orders to have 3 men go out in the jungle and find them. I'm guessing they were Green Beret. The orders were not to engage the enemy if at all possible, just to quietly sneak into the jungle, find these 5 men. So Dad and 2 other men went out to find them. They were to bring them back, dead or alive. Well, after some time, they found those men, and they were dead. This is the evil part of the story. They weren't just dead, shot and left lying on the ground. They were mutilated. They had been dismembered at every joint. The ankles, the wrists, the knees and elbows, the hips and shoulders, and the head. Each man was neatly stacked in a pile with the head at the top, and with their private parts stuffed in their mouths. And for one last story in this video of Dad's Vietnam stuff, I think, puts the icing on the cake for his PTSD problems. It was at nighttime, and Dad and his squad was in a firefight with the enemy. Dad's group was manning a bunch of 50 cows set up on tripods. They were being stormed by the enemy. It was absolute chaos. Bombs being dropped, flashes of light. It was a hellish firefight. And they were just mowing the enemy down as they ran at them. What Dad and his guys didn't know is that the enemy soldiers were being chased by our own American soldiers. Before Dad and his guys realized what was happening, they had killed several of our own American soldiers. This is referred to as friendly fire, and that happened to many men in the Vietnam War. The guilt my dad has on his shoulders, I think, must be incredible. My dad served in Vietnam in 1967. I was born in 1970. So all I have ever known my dad as is the version that came back from Vietnam. As a kid growing up, my brother and I experienced many episodes from Dad where he would have an absolute meltdown dealing with his frustrations. I will tell you, I learned every cuss word known to man. I remember an experience when I was probably about 8 years old. Maybe a little younger, maybe possibly a little bit older, somewhere in that range. And my dad was, in those years, on our own farm raising alfalfa hay. And not this tractor, that tractor that I'd been working on over there, along with this loader. Dad was trying to replace sickle sections on the cutting bar on a John Deere swather. And it's really not very hard to do. You got your sickle guards, you have the knives, and back in those days, those knives were actually riveted onto the sickle bar with cold rivets. And you had to remove the sickle guards, which took, I think, either a 9/16, couple of 9/16 wrenches, maybe a couple of 5/8 wrenches. Not hard to remove them. And then you take a hammer and a cold chisel to cut the rivets off, and a punch to punch the rivets out. And then you put new rivets in with new sickle blades, and you smash the rivets, put the guard on, you're done. It's really not, for me anyway, it's not a hard job. And Dad was doing that. He had a 1976 square body Chevy pickup backed up there to the nose of that swather, and he had his toolbox sitting out on the tailgate of that pickup. Had his tools, and he was working on it, and me, just a little kid. I don't remember if my brother was there or not, but as just a little kid, I was sitting there playing around, doing my things like kids do. And my dad, for whatever reason, had what I remembered to be the first meltdown I can ever remember, and probably, in my memory, the worst. I mean, he took a 2-pound hammer and he went apeshit. He beat the shit out of that metal toolbox sitting on the tailgate of his pickup. I mean, tools started flying everywhere. He did not stop until he had that toolbox flat as a pancake. And I mean, holy shit, I ran for cover because I thought tools were going to hit me. It was just crazy. And he had a lot of episodes like that. So, you have heard the phrase, the apple didn't fall too far from the tree? Yeah, I've been known to have episodes too, and so is my brother. This is what I think is secondhand PTSD. It is a thing. You can Google it. My brother and I have had plenty of good times together, but we have had plenty of bad times also. I can't count the number of fights and arguments we have had. I think this secondhand PDS thing didn't help us any with those problems. I like to watch YouTube, and I had the pleasure to get to meet my favorite YouTuber about 2 years ago. He was having a birthday bash out at Glamis, California at the Glamis Sand Dunes. I had always wanted to go ride dune buggies on those dunes, so I went to his birthday bash. I love watching Merlin's old school garage because he reminds me so much of my grandpa, Walter Stevenson. My grandpa was brutally taken from this world by my uncle, David Stevenson, in an argument over the family farm trust. On my way home from Merlin's birthday bash, I had a revelation moment. You see, this guy who reminds me so much of my grandpa is a YouTuber. My granddad was taken from this world on March 13th, 2008. Merlin's birthday is on March 14th. My revelation is like one chapter just closed and another chapter is just starting. And I think it's a sign from above that I should YouTube this story. You see, it's been 17 years since Granddad's death, and there is still crap going on. My Uncle David's child is causing problems, and other family members are being unruly. I mean, to the point they are almost behaving like my Uncle David. So I have decided I am going to YouTube this story, and by Kansas law, I can video record anything I want to. This is my last warning to family members. Straighten your act up, or I'm going to show the world what your behavior is really like. I've been doing some work on this tractor for the last 4 or 5 days. I'm going to show you what all I've done to it. This tractor has a little story of its own. This is a 4020 tractor. It's a diesel. It also belonged to my grandpa. My granddad bought this tractor at a farm auction. 4 or 5 years before he passed away. And this tractor's lucky to be sitting here in this condition. It's lucky it didn't find its way to a salvage yard and get completely dismantled and sold for parts, because he bought this tractor at an auction for an extremely cheap price because it was in very sad shape. All the tires were flat. I mean, it was horrible. It didn't run. It did not have a loader on it. It was a straight, just set up for, pulling tractor. And it didn't run. And so him and my Uncle David, Grandpa bought this, and they drug it home to the farm. And the first thing they did was work on the diesel motor to see if they could get it running. And they got it running. This tractor has a power shift transmission. For you folks that don't understand tractors or even understand mechanics, a power shift transmission is kind of like an automatic transmission. And I'm going to say kind of like on this particular deal because it does have a clutch pedal, but you don't have to use it. You can, if you're very slow and don't have super high engine RPMs, you can just pop it into gear and just keep moving the gear shift forward, and it's like an automatic. Where that tractor is a synchro shift, you have to push the clutch pedal in every time you make a gear shift. So, anyways, they got this engine running, and so they changed the filters. This is the filters on your transmission. There's one, and there's another one back there. Put new fluid in it. Tried it out to see if the power shift was going to work, and it worked. And so they decided to have the sheet metal all repainted. They put new tires on it. They got this tractor up and going. And sometime after they got it up and going, my mom, who used to work at a soil conservation service, knew the ins and outs to planting trees for windbreaks. There's government programs here in Kansas where you can, farmers can get government grants to plant windbreaks. And so my uncle and my mom teamed up and worked together for several years planting windbreaks. My granddad made a little tree planter out of an old farm implement that mounted on the 3-point of this tractor, and he put a seat on there, and my mom would ride on that, and then they would, if the windbreak was to be 100 foot long, they would put a post at one end and a post at the other end, and then tie a string in between. And then my uncle would operate the tractor, and he would follow that string so they knew they were planting a straight line. My mom would ride on that little seat, and it was a very slow process. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 miles an hour. And my mom would ride on there, and she would plant trees as they moved down that deal. And that is pretty much all this tractor ever did since this family has had this tractor. So, anyway, about 10 years ago, we discovered that diesel engine had a cracked liner in it, and the motor was going to need to be overhauled. And we had a junk combine that my granddad had been robbing parts off of that still had a good running motor in it. And I made some phone calls and discovered that motor would physically fit in a 4020 tractor. So we removed that engine from that combine, and we took it to a John Deere mechanic, a retired fellow that still liked to do a little work on the side, and he installed this combine engine in this tractor. So this tractor has a combine engine in it, which the combine we pulled it out of came out of a 7700 John Deere combine. But unfortunately, if you saw the video at the very front of this, you saw an injection pump just leaking fuel. I will try to attach this to this video. Yeah, I had to get that fixed before I could mount this loader on it. So I sent the injection pump off to be rebuilt. And upon talking with those guys and them checking out the model number on this and the serial number, I discovered that injection pump belonged on a 6600 John Deere engine. So I do know through the years my granddad had bought salvage engines from a junkyard to replace ones in his combine, and maybe this was a salvage engine that came from a 6600, or maybe sometime in the past somebody put an injection pump off a 6600 motor onto a 7700 motor, or maybe all the motors the same. They're 404 cubic inches. So anyways, I put a rebuilt injection pump on it. It's got a 2-year warranty on it. I power washed the tractor, cleaned it all up, got the loader on it. I relocated the battery to this side because it used to be on the other side. I relocated the battery to this side, and I also put some nice new steps on, which I had here in the shop. They were to go on that tractor, but I can buy another set sometime. I decided to put them on this tractor to make it a little easier on my brother. It's just a little nicer for us guys in the 50s now to get up on and off this tractor. So I put the big fat tires on here from that tractor. I switched them. Those little skinny tires you see over there used to be on this tractor. And yeah, cleaned it all up. I changed oil. I changed all the fluids, motor oil, transmission fluid, changed all the filters. I cleaned the dust bowl up there. And this should be a nice working little loader tractor for the farm. This isn't meant to be a permanent deal. This is just temporary. It didn't take me very long to remove the brackets off of that tractor and put them on this tractor and then mount the loader on it. It was really not hard to do at all. This tractor's just got so much to do on it yet, trying to figure out hydraulic leaks, much less change these tires and stuff yet. It's gonna be a while, so I decided to put the loader on this tractor. And like I say, this is just temporary. When I get that tractor done, the plan is to put that loader back on it. So anyways, let's take you outside. We're gonna do a test and show you all how much this loader will lift up. So let's, my dog likes to run wild and I don't have time to chase her around town. So let's put her on a leash so I can say hello to Lady, everybody. She is just the sweetest little dog. There. Yeah. Let's open this door and take this tractor out and do a lift test. Got to put the battery cable on. We always try to take the battery cable off because sometimes these tractors just sit for so long that kind of keep it from running the battery down. This is what I mean by an automatic. You notice there's no foot on the clutch pedal. You just bump them forward. It's kind of a nice tractor. I think I like a power shift better than a synchro. I've got a Series 60 Detroit here that I bought. It's a spare engine that I plan on either overhauling or whatever, getting it ready to go in my semi truck. Just a spare engine. You can Google this. This is a 12.7 liter Series 60 Detroit. You Google what one weighs. They weigh 2,640 pounds, almost 2,700 pounds. And we're gonna see if we can lift this thing. Let me try to set you over here while I do this. with 2,700 pounds hanging off that bucket, the bottom of that bucket has got to be 10 to 12 foot off the ground. As a trucker, I have a lot of experience hauling round hay bales. I have hauled thousands of loads of round hay bales, and the heaviest hay bale average I've ever seen is probably 1,800 pounds. This tractor, if it can lift a 2,700 pound diesel motor, it's gonna lift any round hay bale that anybody wants to grab. So I think everything will be just fine. You know it's got the weight on it. I got those tires aired up to the rated specs. It says on the sidewalls 35 pounds, and we're squishing them pretty hard. That's a freaking, it don't look like much, but that thing is heavy. And the front axle, it may not be as stout built as the old Wheatland axle, but it's more than stout enough for 1,800 pound hay bales. We're not going to be breaking no axles with hay bales. So, anyways, let's let this down, unhook it, and then we're going to go load this up and take it to the farm. And this motor still has the clutch hanging on it. So its rated weight probably is heavier than what the Google says. Because that probably don't include the clutch. There's only one little flaw in that tractor, is the park. Where you pull the gear shift into park, that tractor won't park. What I mean by that is if you're on the side of a hill, park will not hold it. That tractor will roll down a hill on you in either direction. So I think putting the loader on it makes it just a little safer. You set the loader on the ground and that becomes your park feature. So I tried messing with that. The cable looks like it's okay. So I think something inside the tranny's broken, and from what I've talked to other guys, that's a hard thing to fix. You got to split the tractor in two or something, get inside that transmission to fix it. So we're not going to mess with that. I'm going to put you on pause for just a little bit. I'll be right back. Okay, we got the tractor loaded and tied down. Checked the air pressure and adjusted them in the trailer tires. We're gonna head to the farm. So thanks for watching. If you want to follow this story, please like and subscribe, and I'll bring you some stories. Thank you.